Now another reaction which is called iodoform reaction. This is one of the important reaction to distinguish the alcohols. For example, if you want to distinguish methanol and ethanol, both are alcohol, but in laboratory, suppose in one test tube I have given ethanol, in another test tube I have given methanol, and you have to identify which one is ethanol, which one is methanol. So both are liquid, both are colorless compound. So from the test tube you cannot find out who is ethanol, who is methanol. So how to distinguish them? And to distinguish these compounds, what you have to do, you have to apply some reagent. So when you apply the reagent, someone will do the reaction and someone cannot. So that is the process to distinguishing the compounds. And for distinguishing purpose, you have to apply that type of reaction which gives some color sense, or which gives some precipitate, or which evolves some gases. That type of reaction always you have to consider for distinguishing purpose, because when you carry out the reaction, which one shows, that you have to see. Suppose this one's going on, this one shows some color sense, this one not, that means here reaction takes place, here reaction do not takes place. So that is why for distinguishing purpose, always you apply that type of reaction which shows some color sense, or some or which gives some precipitate. So this iodoform reaction is one of the reaction which is used for the distinguishing purpose. And iodoform reaction always gives some yellow precipitate. So when the yellow precipitate is produced, that means it shows the reaction. And when there is no yellow precipitate, that means the compound cannot show the iodoform reaction. So there are some alcohols, not all the alcohols, there are some alcohols which can show iodoform reaction. For example, methanol and ethanol, if you want to compare, methanol cannot show iodoform reaction, but ethanol can show iodoform reaction. So that is why when I supply two compounds, methanol and ethanol, in test tube, and if you want to distinguishing them, then you can do the iodoform reaction. In ethanol you will get the yellow precipitate, in methanol you don't get the yellow precipitate. That means you can identify who is ethanol, who is methanol. So now I'll tell you what is iodoform reaction. The alcohols containing this group CH3CHOH, this group can show iodoform reaction, So all alcohol cannot show the iodoform reaction. Those alcohol which contain this group, I mean the if alcohol contain this group, that means it can show the iodoform reaction. What about the reaction when alcohol reacts with iodine, and some alkali like sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, then it produces yellow precipitate of iodoform. Iodoform is one of the compound and which gives the yellow color, yellow precipitate of iodoform. This reaction is called iodoform reaction. This reaction is called iodoform reaction. Now I will show you the reaction. So this is one of the alcohol CH3OH. You know this is called methanol. This is one of the reactions this is one of the compound which is called ethanol. This is one of the compound which is called propanol or propane-1-ol. And this is one compound which is called propane-2-ol. So different alcohols I have written. When you react with iodine and sodium hydroxide, I2NaOH, then this compound do not give yellow precipitate, I mean reaction will not take place. because there is a condition, the alcohol should contain this group CH3CHOH. I mean minimum 2 carbons should be present and the second carbon should contain the OH group, otherwise it cannot show iodoform reaction. Since it contains only 1 carbon, that's why you don't get any product. This ethanol, there are 2 carbon and the second carbon contain OH group. This ethanol you can write like this way also, CH3CHOH. One hydrogen you can write like this, CH3CH2OH. I mean this compound contain this group, and that is why ethanol can show this iodoform reaction. So when ethanol reacts with iodine and sodium hydroxide, then it forms a compound CHI3, and which is called the iodoform, and it gives the yellow precipitate. And this compound is called iodoform. You know chloroform? Chloroform is CHCl3. Like this iodoform CHI3. Similarly bromoform CHBr3, like that. So this compound is called iodoform, and which gives the yellow precipitate. This compound is called iodoform. Now here 2 carbon present. This carbon produce the iodoform. Another 1 carbon left. That carbon will produce a salt of carboxylic acid, HCOONA. Since 1 carbon is present, that's why carboxylic acid should contain only 1 carbon. This is called sodium salt of methanoic acid. Side product sodium iodide, and you will get water. So you have to balance the reaction. So like this, so it produces the side products. Similarly, this is propane 1-ol. Since second carbon do not have OH group, that's why it cannot show the reaction. So when you react with iodine and sodium hydroxide, you don't get any product. But propane 2-ol, it contains this group CH3CHOH, so it can show this reaction. When it reacts with iodine and sodium hydroxide, then it produces the iodoform because it contains this group. So this carbon will form iodoform. I mean you will get the CH3 and you will get the yellow precipitate. Now when this carbon produce yellow precipitate, another 2 carbon left, so the salt of carboxylic acid should contain 2 carbon, and that is why side product will be CH3COONA, another side product sodium iodide, another side product water. So this is the process how to draw the iodoform reaction. So always you remember, all alcohols cannot show the iodoform reaction. Those alcohol which contain this group, only that type of alcohol can show iodoform reaction. So one of the important question for exam, distinguish the following pairs of compounds. So how to distinguish propane 1-ol and propane 2-ol? Like this you will get a pair of compound and you have to distinguishing them. So if you want to distinguish propane 1-ol and propane 2-ol, don't write like this. In propane 1-ol, OH is present with number 1 carbon. In propane 2-ol, OH is present with number 2 carbon. This is not the distinguishing process. So structural difference is not asked. To distinguish, you have to do some chemical test. And to do this chemical test, you have to choose that type of reaction which shows some color change, which gives some precipitate. Only that type of reaction you have to choose for the distinguishing purpose. So that is why in exam, if the question asks how to distinguish methanol and ethanol, so then you have to write methanol cannot show iodoform reaction, but ethanol can show iodoform reaction and it gives the yellow precipitate. After that you have to show the reaction like this way. If you want to distinguish propane 1-ol and propane 2-ol, how to distinguish them? Then you have to write propane 2-ol can show iodoform reaction, but propane 1-ol cannot. So after that you have to write the reaction of propane 2-ol, how the iodoform is formed. You have to show the reaction, then you will get the full marks. So like this way, minimum 3 pairs you will get to distinguish the compounds, and this is one of the common question in your board exam, distinguishing the compounds. So in organic chemistry, mainly questions you will get the conversions, you will get the IPSC naming, you will get the distinguishing compounds, then you will get the road mapping, then you will get identify ABC. I mean you will get a series of reaction, what is A, what is B, what is C. That type of questions you will get in organic part, and that is why you should know, you should learn all the chemical reaction, otherwise you cannot write the answers. So in organic chemistry, mainly you have to learn the reaction. If you know the reactants, if you know the reagents, if you know the products, then only you can answer the questions. So thank you for today.